Welcome back to The Script with Shellz, the #1 League of Legends interview series on the internet. Hosted by me, I'm Shellz, and today I have the absolute pleasure to be joined by my favorite guest ever to this point, Kyle. Kyle, how you doing, man?
Good, Shell. Nice to be here. I've been looking forward to this, so hope we have a good time.
This will probably be the best time you have in the next couple weeks, honestly, maybe the next month, being on this show with me. And I know you have some very exciting things coming up very, very soon. But before we get to that, I want the people to know a little bit more about you and get to know a little bit more about who Kyle is and what he's done. So I'm going to say a few things about you, and you just go ahead and stop me when I tell a lie. All right?
Okay.
And I'm getting this information from a source that I believe is very reliable and I mean honestly infallible. Whoever wrote these things about you most likely knows everything about you. So, greatest AD carry,
Yep.
crispest mechanics,
Yep.
biggest brain macro,
Yep.
least,
And micro.
Oh, and micro, of course, but of course, least selfish team player,
Yeah.
smallest ego,
No, that's a lie. That's a lie.
clearest shot calls,
That's also a lie. That's
politest
a lie.
manners. All truth so far.
Politest manners. Polite manners for sure.
So we're 6 for 6 on truths. Chivalrous gentleman.
Yeah.
Puzzle master.
No.
Still on the truths. Gourmetist chef.
Yeah, definitely. You can tell if you look at me.
Coolest hair.
Yeah, sometimes.
Best shoes.
No.
Still on the truth. Okay.
Yep.
Deepest thinker.
Absolutely. I'm modern day Aristotle.
And the last thing on this list is something that I have myself struggled with. Thinks the moon landing was staged by the government in 1969.
Definitely for sure.
Look, the skepticism behind whether or not our interstellar and you know cosmic travels astound me to this day. I'm still a little bit wary about whether or not we actually touch the moon. I'm actually not even sure if the moon is a real thing out there. I haven't seen it myself. But we'll get to those philosophical thoughts a little bit later on in this interview because you have some very exciting things coming up for you in the near future. I just saw very recently that you got accepted and invited to Scouting Grounds. Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah. I mean, I made it through solo queue, so I guess I was the #1. Although there's only two, so I was like the highest rated AD in solo queue throughout the season. And just worked hard throughout the season. Sort of tried to continue getting better and better. Played amateur with AOE for the better, of better half of the year, and um, was a big development year for me. Even though at first glance you might look at me and be like, "Oh, damn, he's too old." But I feel like most of my growth as a player has been the last 8 to 12 months sort of thing. So it's awesome to be able to get to Scouting Grounds and hopefully take some names, show what I'm made of, and continue to improve because I'm not going to slow down anytime soon.
And that's a point I always try to get to with people I talk to is the whole thought process about age with players. You see it all the time. Teams see if you're even touching college, if you're like above 20, it's a little bit like there's a stigma against players at that 20, 21, 22 age range where you're already grandpas at that level. Give me your thoughts on whether or not that holds any credence to you, or whether or not, I guess, where's the flaw in the thought process when looking at players who are older than, high school age?
Yeah, so it kind of makes sense historically for a couple of reasons, and the big two reasons that come to my mind from a business perspective is it's good to get young and impressionable players, and on top of that, it's always made the most sense to aim for players who are younger because careers were pretty short in esports. And now since, the franchising of the LCS and more of, you know, esports becoming integrated into society and being really considered a long-term career path in terms of streaming and all the different opportunities you can have in esports, people are starting to realize, wow, you don't necessarily need to retire by the time you're 20, right? You look at Bjergsen, you look at Doublelift, you look at Faker, all players who are late into their 20s. And there's also, like, if you go back and look at StarCraft Brood War and StarCraft 2, historically a lot of older players who were really good that played into like their 30s. So there's a flaw in the thinking in the sense that now that North America has the infrastructure, and well, I guess the Western Hemisphere has the infrastructure for esports to be considered a sustainable future for a lot of people. Um, we don't necessarily need to aim for the younger players, but at the same time, that thought process is there in the first place because of where esports came from. And I think to some extent, a lot of the future talent pool is gate kept by the old mentality that we have yet to move on from,
Mhm.
which is upsetting to me, obviously. But at the end of the day, from my perspective, if I'm good enough, it doesn't matter.
How linear do you think the path to pro is? Do you think that just being good at playing the game is enough to get you from solo queue, amateur, academy, and the LCS? Or are there other factors in place where maybe just your performance on the Rift isn't taken into account outside of age, obviously?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into ultimately being considered like a prospect or being picked up. Obviously, your own personal brand, if you're a streamer and you bring value to an organization, you're going to be considered more of an asset, and teams are going to be more interested in bringing you on board because you can put yourself out there and you can bring an audience towards the organization, right? You think of Doublelift, for example, or Sneaky, right? Big audiences, regardless of which
Right.
teams they were with. So there's always that factor. But at the same point, if you are an extremely talented player, but you lack communication skills or sociable skills, because ultimately, at the end of the day, League of Legends in most esports are team games, right?
Yeah.
And no matter how good you are as a player, if you cannot work as a team and bring up your teammates, then you're shit out of luck. So there's a lot of factors, but ultimately, from my perspective, being good at the game involves being a good teammate as well, right? It's more than just, hey, I'm Kyle. I hit, rank 11 on the ladder. You should pick me up because of that. It's not you should pick me up because of that. It's you should pick me up because of the skill set I've built to get to that point. And there's more to me than just, micro mechanics. There's my communication skills, my personality, how I work with teammates and whatnot that um, is sort of hard to put on display when you're not really in the inner circle of the franchised LCS orgs, but networking and whatnot can sort of get you there as well. So you got to keep your door open. You got to be obviously a good person, and you got to be good in and outside a game. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, yeah. But as a baseline, you have to be an extremely talented player, and then everything else from there is something you sort of have to work on over time and hope to some extent there's a little bit of luck involved and you meet the right people at the right time.
Where do you think you stack up? And not only this scouting grounds coming up very soon, but I know the academy teams are going to be having tryouts here in the next couple of days. We're recording this on the Halloween Eve. That is the 30th of October, and I think the tryouts start on the 1st of November. With I think some of these teams are going to be announcing rosters very soon after that. Where do you think you stack up in scouting grounds and potentially even as an academy prospect?
To be quite frank, I haven't heard from or basically anything from any academy teams, so I pretty
Really?
much have no expectations. Yeah, and I'm quite disappointed. Maybe I need to do a little bit more outreach on my point, or maybe it's just my first season being sort of uh, breaking out, so I need to keep working. But I haven't heard anything. But in that regard, if any academy teams are watching, I definitely want to be a part of that because I think I have a lot to bring to the table. But in terms of scouting grounds, yeah, I guess by the same token, right, I have essentially nothing to lose because uh, if rumor is as is proper, people basically think I suck. So I am just hoping to smash that narrative. And I think there's a lot of talented players at Scouting Grounds. Don't get me wrong. The other bot laners there, Good Boy, Array, and Wixie are great players. But you know, when the limelight is so focused on some people, you forget about those who are also on the outside looking in. And um, I am by no means a slouch, and I've been working really hard. And I'll let my gameplay do the talking. But just because I'm sort of not in this inner circle of tryouts doesn't mean that I'm not going to show up at scouting grounds. So I'm hoping to use that as an opportunity to really show what I'm made of, and then get discussions going and really just demonstrate why this season has been so important to me and why I mean the things that I say. Because in a note of game, I think I'm an asset, but um, time will tell. right? So we just got to perform. As a good friend of mine, Winston, said to me a year ago when I was first climbing up and getting better at the game, he
Mhm.
essentially just said, "Talk is cheap." Because I used to talk a lot about how solo queue sucked and how I felt like it was a waste of my time. And he just said, "Talk is cheap. You just got to play better. You're playing like dog shit." And he pointed out a bunch of mistakes to me and how to self-analyze. And since then, I've only been getting better, and it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop here. So, in his words, talk is cheap. I will show you what I'm made of.
You know what? I like that tough love kind of angle there. The talk is cheap, shut up and play, get better kind of thing that you got from Winston. And I think from my interactions with your coach Nick, inconspicuous, sometimes he's look. If you know, if you recognize that name, you know he can be one of the biggest proprietors of that kind of tough love sort of approach when it comes to coaching and pushing his players to get better. Tell me a little bit more about Nick's coaching style, his approach to the game, how he sees it, and how he's helped you along the way as well.
So yeah, I mean, you nailed it on the hammer, right? I've had an amateur, basically in my time in amateur, about almost coming up on like 12 months now with just randoms and the end of 2020, and now with AOE. I've worked with two different coaches, Argentum Sky and Inconspicuous, and both of them had the tough love mentality. And Nick specifically, he was the way I liked working with him is if we made dumb plays in game, it's almost like it just wasn't worth discussing a lot of it because the game, yeah, we can review sort of the domino effect of how we go through a game and X goes wrong and Y goes wrong, but in my opinion the first 10 to 15 minutes of a game are where most of the stuff relies on that can really be coached and taught, and everything else is just mechanical and how you play team fights and how you set up objectives, right? And that is more like a player driven thing, but Nick offered a lot of insight into how to play I guess those early minutes of the game and rotations and things like that. We like playing comps like with Ziggs and Trist and how to macro that and how to essentially just make the enemy team consistently just respond to you. And yeah, tough love is a great way to put it to sort of just describe Nick as a coach, but at the same time, he also has a lot of effective, concise insight that allows you to just sort of focus as a team quickly and stimulate discussion between players and just sort of move on and in a healthy manner. Um, and he's really easy to get along with as well. So he was great to work with. I can't really say anything bad about him other than maybe he posts a little bit too much on Twitter sometimes, but he's a good guy.
Yeah, I think great coach, horrendous thirst trapper on Twitter. But
Yeah,
look, sometimes when you have someone that good at what he does, you gotta take the whatever that is with the good.
he
Um,
has to bring himself down a little bit.
yeah, exactly right. But you know what? Let's get away from League for just a second. Give me one thing that you're great at that has nothing to do with League.
I'm a great. Well, I guess like you could spin this to have something to do with league, but um, I think I'm just like a great like mediator. If people have like beef, essentially, for lack of a nice way to put it, if people having arguments or um, basically just stuff going on that they want perspective on, or um, people want an issue like resolved or don't know how to approach it. I think I have a lot of good insight, I guess, on how to think about things that might be going wrong in your life or what you can do to improve you know bad circumstances and stuff like that. And obviously coming up with specific examples on a recording is kind of difficult, but
Don't worry, I got you. Actually, I got you right now, Kyle.
okay, all
Okay,
right,
okay. I'm your jungler. First of all,
okay,
I'm an AP Trundle one trick, but I got very high. I'm in your Proving Grounds team. All
yeah, okay,
right. Our mid laner, he's a pretty cool guy, good looking guy. He's a pretty chill dude. In the middle of one of our games, we have a best of five series. After game two, he DMs my e girl that I'm dating. Haven't met her
okay,
yet. She's cute. Well, according to her anime picture, she's cute. He DMs her. She tells me about it, and I find out after game three. We're down 2-1, going into game four. I'm mad as hell at our mid laner. I don't want to gank for him. I don't want him getting prio. I'm not gonna do anything. I want nothing to do with him at all. What do you say to get us back on track? And keep in mind, I'm in love with this girl, and we're in a bad spot, man.
we just gotta sub out our mid laner, no?
I agree. Look, it is what it is.
um, no, but I mean, well, I mean, yeah, no, I mean, you either sub out your mid laner or you just, more, more is, more the more the merrier, right? As they say. So maybe maybe we're fine to do a little sharing here, a little team bonding, but no, I mean,
Share the resources. Okay, I can feel that. Sometimes you gotta,
share the resources. That's a term, right? In League, right? Share the resources. So, no, jokes aside, I mean, I don't know. Like that's just like such an unrealistic scenario. You just got to play the game, right? I mean, you can't let your personal life, deal with how you perform in game. Obviously, it happens, but um, you got to deal with that after the series. You just have to deal with that after the series. You got to focus on the game at hand.
You know what, Kyle? That
That's
is
that's
a
the realistic answer, right? That's like the serious answer, right?
Yeah. Look,
But
look, look. I'm not gonna lie to you, Kyle. That exact same situation happened in a amateur Call of Duty event. I think 2 years ago. Yeah, it
oh
was,
god,
it was bad. But and there's no
no.
way. I mean, there's no way you can actually deal with that at all. But if I ever do find myself in that situation, I will be coming to you, whether you're at the LCS level or you got so good you're now playing in Korea. I will still be DMing you, asking
Yeah,
you for your opinion and your help because my AP trundle is tremendous and our team needs this game for a win. Look, everyone I've talked to has had pretty strong opinions, pretty strong thoughts about the amateur scene, and let's try to stick away from the money issue because we know the money in amateur isn't there. And I think that Riot is trying to, or at least the LCS is trying to uh, invest a little bit more as we go along. Obviously, this is the first year we had Proving Grounds, so I think there's going to be more and more investment into the amateur scene. But I'm not
Mhm.
quite sure when the money's going to become, actually livable for some of these players. But what's one thing you would change in the amateur scene, and how?
I would personally. I mean, I guess this question sort of. Yeah, so I guess the thing that I would do is I would make it so that all the LCS orgs have to support an amateur team, like a third string team, um, as well as on top of an academy team, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think like you've looked at EG Prodigy's 100 Next. Just recently in this last split, Chad Jungle and Gamsu, even though Gamsu used to play, they transitioned to 100 Academy and they won Proving Grounds. There's like a boundary between the third string and academy that exists only because of the fact that um like academy is basically when you've quote unquote like made it, right? When you get like a contract that is livable.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of talent that still exists in amateur that is at the level of academy that just isn't getting an opportunity. So if we see more LCS orgs invest into these third string teams and support these players and see what's actually going on here, you're going to see over time more players, for example, Busio, who got picked up by 100 Academy to sort of be a substitute of six man throughout their split. You're going to see more players like that get brought onto the academy teams as substitutes as developmental players to bring up in future years, and that over time will result in North America becoming better and us scouting more talent and just the future of North America, right? And supporting these young players. So personally, I think it's a no-brainer, and it should be happening anyways for us to be supporting like the amateur, for LCS orgs to be supporting amateur, because it's very realistically, like as you said, there's not much money in it. It's a very low investment unless you find a gem, in which case, congratulations, you've hit gold. Um, it's low investment, and it only brings good to the scene, right? To be supporting that. And the last three splits of amateur really like just showcase that on full display, right? We have you have Dan Kaisa who went to LCS. You have Tomo who moved up. You've
Mm-hmm.
had I guess he was academy, but you have all these names that are slowly moving up and supporting third string to sort of keep that going and whatnot is really important, I think. So that's what I would do.
And kind of going off that, do you think these LCS teams continuing to be in constant win now mode, uh, hyper investing in either import talent or the same talent that's been in the LCS. Do you think that being in win now mode is constantly is sustainable? And by the same token, how detrimental do you think it would be for more LCS teams to say, okay, what we're doing isn't working. We need a not a full reset, but we need a reset to some degree where we're bringing in more unseen talent, players from academy and amateur, and try to develop these guys a little bit more because the win now has been a thing for a while now, and it has not worked. Now, NA looked a lot better at Worlds this year. I think they looked, I mean, across the board, more respectable than in recent years. But do the pros outweigh the cons of trying to do a much heavier and a much more aggressive move toward looking at more amateur and academy players to move up to LCS at all to you?
Um, Difficult question. There's a lot loaded in there, obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would be ignorant. I would be basically just talking out my ass if I pretended like I knew about any of the business models and whatnot that were actually
Mm-hmm.
governing these LCS franchises and why they justify imports and how much they're paying or supposedly paying, according to rumors. I'd just be talking out my ass. The one thing I will say that's good is veteran presence always helps uplift new players substantially faster. So an example that immediately comes to mind is Bjergsen plus Spica. He moved into the LCS, and within a year, he was considered the best jungler in the LCS. And that year, he played with Bjergsen in 2020, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
throughout the whole thing. Or maybe it was just the latter half after COVID hit. I don't remember. But basically, Spica became better through working with veteran presence, Double Lift, and Bjergsen. So both of them were on that team at the time. I forgot. So I don't think there's necessarily massive merit if you're just speaking from a business perspective to completely invest into North American talent and be like, oh hey, look at us, like we're investing into the future of NA and then just permanently sucking. But by the same token, there's a healthy balance that I think can be achieved here, where we mix up and coming talent with veterans from across the world, whoever it might be. It's always nice to have them in North America because then the quality of solo queue and games go up overall. And on top of that, um, if we, as I sort of discussed earlier, if we end up supporting more third string teams, we can have more people affiliated with these LCS organizations working with these veteran players, internal scrimmages, whatever it might be, and that can develop these players even though we don't necessarily see them on stage. We like immediately we would be developing them and looking long term in that regard because they'd be exposed to these veteran players, Bjergsen, Core JJ, impact these players, see how they operate, see how they're playing, their communications, things like that, right? And if you mix the best of both worlds where you're playing to win while also having a keen eye on up and coming North American talent. Um, I feel like that's sort of the best perspective from where I stand. And
Mm-hmm.
it sort of makes the most sense because you give the fans what they want, you give them a great showing, they're going to have great teams, um, and we're also developing talent that you know will be the future of North America one way or another.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's a balance and a sense of what's what I want to use compromise that has to be built with a long term plan, like right because you can't just do something and and expect it to work. I think having a long term 5-10 year plan and understanding that this isn't gonna work immediately. This isn't gonna be a snap of a finger and everything's perfect. We saw like taking it to like the amateur scene, proving grounds this split or this year wasn't perfect, but you can see the direction it's going.
Yep.
With the tournaments and the way things are run and whatnot, you can see that there is effort being put in, and it makes you think. Maybe not. I want to say for the first time, but it makes you believe even stronger than before that there is a plan in place, there is infrastructure being built, and there is going to be a foundation to where the future can be a little bit more stable and there is more structure for the players coming up in the future. So
Yeah.
I think that having that, I guess establishing that confidence between the teams, the league, players, and the audience as a whole is the biggest major goal and the biggest indicator of whether or not something that big and ambitious will have success moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, like, absolutely agree with you. And if, like, from my perspective, if you're an LCS org, like, all you need of evidence that amateur has good players and academy has good players is just look at Danny or Dan Kaisa. I'm not sure exactly what he goes from. Last year, I was playing against him in amateur, and he grew into an incredible, nasty player, one of the best AD carries in the LCS within a year.
That a good enough fight? Oh, he's almost deleted. Nearly down, pops the shield. GPO buys a lot of space, and that means EG gonna walk back. Rocket Jump buys a bit of space, but still has to burn the stopwatch. Good barrel damage. The front line might die. It's EG forced to run. No, a damage done to Abadaga. Nearly kills him off. Contract's gonna be low. Gonna be dropped, 1-0. Push back now. No one's left alive. They've got to run. They've got to run. No, Danny steps up, and Danny shuts down one. Mid laner is dead, though, and it's gonna be another kill in. Danny is doing it all. Danny shuts down FBI. The rookie of the year puts his team on his back, but he's 1 versus 2. Someday an Abadaga can only watch him knock down the wave as they can't push the base without minions, and Danny single-handedly keeps EG in the upper bracket. It's Danny versus the world. It's Danny versus the 100 Thieves, and Danny's gonna get 1. Danny could get 2. Holy God, he's so damn good at this game.
There's talent like that out there, and you just have to invest the time and resources into going out there and finding it and doing your due diligence. There is a lot of hope for North America, I think. And we just got to take it a day at a time. But that's all the evidence you need that there's hope out there for this up and coming North American talent. And that's why I'm so keen on supporting these up and coming players, right? And hopefully LCS orgs, as you said, Proving Grounds was a great opportunity, and I think that's starting to become more of a mainstream discussion where LCS orgs are realizing, hey, there's a lot out here for us, and we could be the next team to find a player like a Dan Kaisa or whatever, right? And the value of that player becomes extremely high if you find a North American talent that can compete at the top of the LCS, which is filled with international talent that's at the top of their game. Then that doesn't take an import slot, right? So there is intrinsic value here from investing into amateur, and I'm very glad that Proving Grounds has put that all on full display because it's only been great. So
Did you know Danny's name isn't Danny?
Yes, it's Kyle.
My mind was blown when I found that out. I was like, wait, this guy's name isn't Danny. It's Kyle. But his name was...
it's trippy. It's trippy. I thought his name was Danny the whole time as well. And I was like, wait, what? He has the same name as me. Well, I mean, that explains why he's so good, right? Because his name is Kyle. So.
Yeah, his name is Kyle. Maybe at some point, I think another name change for you. Maybe Daniel.
Maybe I need to switch. Yeah.
There might be something there to the name change buff. And I think what's up?
No, I was gonna say what would be really trippy is if I legally changed my name to Danny or something, and we have a Danny in the LCS named Kyle and a Kyle in the LCS named Danny. No, that would just be weird. But no, he's a good player, but a little name change buff is OP. So
you went through a little bit of a name change buff yourself recently.
Yes.
Talk to me about that little name change buff.
It's quite simple. Kyle is just basically what I like to be referred to as. First name basis is what I go with all my teammates. Okay. And Short App has sort of run its course. I kind of used to be toxic in solo queue and just sort of not somebody you really want to be around. And I've tried to invest again the last 12 months into really just reinventing myself and improving as both a player but also as a person, and making myself more desirable and trying to just be not trying to be, but just being happier with myself and being more proud of who I am. And I sort of name changed for that reason because I wanted to move on from I guess the negative attachments that Short Hop has and move on to Kyle, which is it's me. I think I stand for people who have maybe been in a bad place or just been bad people who improve and become better people and sort of want to reinvent themselves. League of Legends, solo queue, and just the internet in general can be a toxic place for some people, and they get caught up in that. And reinventing yourself and trying to move on and be better. I think we should be more accepting of people like that. And I've tried to be that person for other people, and it's just, I think that's essentially what it is, a little name change buff. And it's also just easier to call me Kyle than Short Hop because some people like using in-game names. So I'm like, no, just call me Kyle, please. So now they're forced to call me Kyle.
Yeah, I think the whole transformation and being able to progress and evolve into a better person, one is just in general in life is a very great skill to have. There's people who get stuck in their ways and whatnot. And I think you one becoming the kind of person you want to be, or getting closer on that path to becoming that person, and two, that name change, separating yourself from that, and then showing through who you are, how you act, how you interact with people, uh, is commendable. Because we I think we all recognize and have at least seen evidence of, it's tough. It can be tough to one, see yourself in that way, and two, make an effort to actually change.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really huge thing that you've done here. Now I've kept you here for quite a bit of time, longer than I expected. So I'm gonna give you one more thing. What's one thing about League that you may have what's the word I want to use? A weird pet peeve about? You just have just
Yeah.
you can't get it out of your mind that you could complain about for hours and hours.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like me, Shelly, maybe you saw my Twitter, but just one thing, and I guess this again sort of connects to how I was kind of toxic in the past, is these days it just sort of baffles me how people in solo queue, and I guess just in general, in I won't say all, but a lot of League of Legends are just really like toxic and mean to each other. Like we're people first before we're gamers, and we're competitors. And being upset about competition is natural, and having ego that you think one thing should go one way or the other is important because it drives self growth. But at the same time, I think there's a line that needs to never be crossed, because you never know who's on the other side of a monitor, what they're going through, um, and how your words might impact them. That you should never cross on a personal level when it's when people make mistakes or are trying to be better. And it just baffles me. And again, I speak from experience here because I kind of used to be like this in the past, but it baffles me how people are comfortable treating each other like this. And since meeting a lot of the just randoms guys, and sort of being integrated into an amateur team where I'm meeting a bunch of new people and realizing um it's much easier to be nice than it is to be mean. um you know I just tried to be, what's the word I'm looking for here, sort of just a good role model, as somebody who is relatively more experienced in the scene, has been around the block, sort of thing. Just tried to be more of a positive person. It's not to say that I don't have my drawbacks. I always get upset at the game, because I want to win. I'm a competitor, right? But there's a line that I never cross, and I think that we can give mutual respect to one another as players in and outside of game, and as people, and we can bring each other up instead of you know bash heads when shit goes wrong, because inevitably everybody's going to make mistakes, everybody's going to fall down, everybody's going to want to improve if you're a real competitor. And it's about highlighting each other rather than blocking each other out, and being shitty to each other. So I could rant for hours. Perfect for a question. I could really rant about hours for this, because I've been there. And it's something that is important to me, knowing a lot of people who struggle with the toxicity in solo queue, um, and who really have a hard time, and who it actually impacts when people personally attack them and say really just mean shit over mistakes that happen. Um, I know people who have been there, and you just got to recognize that we're all people, and we're here to do our best for each other. And it's fine to be upset, but let's not cross the line where we're attacking certain people over mistakes, or like not attacking people like negatively or personally over these mistakes, because it affects some people really bad.
Mhm.
And we got to be better. We got to be better as a community and people, because at the end of the day, it's all about spreading love and goodness. And um competitive shit talk is one thing, but yeah, let's we got to be better.
Namaste.
Namaste. No, namaste.
Before I get you out of here, is there anything you want to promote, shout out, talk about? The floor is yours. Go at it.
Sure. Shout out to AOE Esports. You might know of them.
Yeah.
You may or may not know about them. Good
Familiar.
organization, great people. They're doing a lot of great things for the amateur scene, which we talked about a bit. Big fans of them, obviously, and I'm very biased. Shout out to them. Shout out to a couple of my former teammates, but especially Chim and Pockus, who always believed in me and helped a lot of my growth over these last 8 to 12 months. Those guys are, Chim has moved on, but huge shout out to Pockus, and he's still a fantastic player that I feel like is sort of in the same shoes as I am in a lot of ways. And shout out to myself. I stream on Twitch at Kyle ADC and on Twitter, Kyle ADC1. Feel free to follow me and say hi or whatever if you want to talk about anything I've talked about today. My DMs are open. There's a lot more good in the world than there's bads, and there's obviously a lot of things that I feel like as a player in person I can bring to your organization if you're an amateur or academy team, and I'd love to talk to you about that. And last but not least, shout out to you for a great interview. It's been lit. It's always a great time. Love you, Shelly.
Shout out to me for a litty interview. I'm gonna have to mute that last part about your DMs being open. My girlfriend is look, bro, come on now. Like,
yeah,
okay. You really can't do that to me, bro. I can't come to you for advice if it's you doing it. Come on now. So that part will have to be taken now expeditiously. But everything else, man, this has really been an insightful interview, man. I'm really glad we got to have this one. I told you 25, 30 minutes. We're reaching like 50-ish, but I think everything we've said so far has been very impactful and very good. But I'm gonna get you out of here, mostly because I've had you for a long time. Also because we're getting into game 4 of this Damwon Kia T1 game. The draft just ended. Whoa, they picked Echo? Wait, no. Wait. Wait.
Excellent. I was going to say Echo-cellent. That didn't work. Excellent.
I saw a black character. It's actually Lucian.
You literally just chip-baited me like that? Holy crap.
And now you don't have a very bad pun. You've been vindicated from that pun.
I've been vindicated.
I also got baited myself. And now, with me referencing this game and this time, I've now made this interview and this video not timeless. Whew, I've done a very good job.
Wow.
But yeah, I'll get you out of here, man. Thank you guys all for watching the script with Shellz, the #1 League of Legends interview series on the internet. Hosted by me. Kyle, thanks for being here, man. And until next time, guys,